Hey guys, welcome to another edition of The Night Sky This Week. I'm your host, Andrew Fazekas. This is May 27th, last few days of the month of May, turning into June. We're heading really into a change of a season. Of course, that's summertime in about a month here in the Northern Hemisphere. And for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, of course, it's about to become winter. And so the skies do change during that. So great for all of you to join me. Please put in where you're watching from. I'd love to hear and see the comments section filled with folks from all over the world sharing where they are watching from. I'll keep an eye on that. I'm already see Kuriel from Ganzi, Botswana in the Kalahari Desert. I love it. Curry, that is a place I had a very good fortune of visiting, the Kalahari. I actually did my graduate work in the Kalahari Desert, and I absolutely loved it there. The wildlife, nature is just it's just spectacular, really, and I can highly recommend it for anyone who's interested in getting an adventure in terms of nature and the skies. Amazing. Highly recommend the Kalahari Desert. Had have wonderful memories of that. Hope to return one day. So just so cool to see a fellow stargazer there in that beautiful spot. Just super. Hey, I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you did some stargazing. Did you get any great views of planets or stars, constellations? I'd love to hear again in the comment section. And again, if you find any value in this video, please do those good stuff by sharing, liking, and of course, subscribing to my channels. It really means a lot, allows me to bring these shows straight to you every week into your homes and give you some little tips and tricks on what to see in the sky for the coming week. Maybe things that you can circle in your calendar and view. And I try to do things, focus on things, curate a selection of topics and objects to see in the sky that are easy to see with the naked eye from cities, maybe with binoculars, and sprinkling of a few things with telescopes as well. You'll see that this week too in my selection. And before I begin, one other interesting thing is that I've launched a newsletter, a monthly newsletter. I don't want to inundate your inbox with lots of stuff. Just once a month, and maybe a sprinkling of other heads ups on notifications if there's something special happening. If you're on this list, then you can get some cool things. I'll put up a link to that in the comments. Sign up for free. It's totally free. And once a month, you get a special kind of tour of the night sky, things, selections of news and astronomy, things that catch my eye every month, and a selection of course, sky watching stuff that's out there. So you can see that link there. You can just click on that link, and that'll take you to the page explaining what the newsletter is about, and just put in your email and you'll be on my list. I'd love to see you on there. So let's get right into it. What is in the sky? And I gotta start with, of course, the sun. You know, we were so excited a few weeks ago about the auroras, the northern lights, right? I mean, wasn't that just so spectacular? I shared a couple of weeks ago some of my own photos, and I'll be sprinkling some more photos and maybe even videos that I've taken of that beautiful May 10th geomagnetic storm that just created amazing light show. And I've seen so many of your photographs too. It's just wonderful. Thank you for sharing it, and please do continue if you do have some more photos. But I get a lot of questions. Are we in for more auroras? Are we going to be seeing more? And so I've got this web page that I usually turn to, and I've those of you that join me regularly know that I love to consult spaceweather.com. And let's just dive right in here. I'm going to bring it up into onto the screen. So this is spaceweather.com. You can go there yourself, but this is today. And what's really interesting is it gives you a daily picture of the sun. And what is very interesting is there is this very big sunspot. And remember, when we're talking about auroras, it's these sunspots that cause auroras that we see in the sky. They basically, these sunspots are giant stormy regions, many times bigger than the sun. Imagine those little freckles, these little freckles. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. See here, these little freckles here on the sun. These are what causes solar storms and flares. So X-ray radiation comes out, and also charged particles. And it's those charged particles that fly off into space and hit our planet that creates these beautiful light shows. That's the general explanation. We don't need to go into any super duper explanation, but that is what it is. And so we watch for these sunspots, these freckles on the sun, to determine what it may be in store. Now you see right here, I'm circling here. This region right here is already producing what are called X flares. X flares are kind of the strongest forms of radiation, levels of radiation that can come off of the sun from these stormy regions. And you can see here, this movie here is showing you the rotation of that sunspot group. Now, this is many times larger than the Earth. If you want to know, you see that this little spot here, one of these little spots is even bigger than the Earth. Can you imagine that? And so these are really powerful regions on the sun, and you can see it's turning. Now, the sun turns on its axis once every 28 days. So that's very different from Earth, right? Earth's axis, it takes 24 hours to make one rotation on the axis for our planet, but the sun takes 28 days. So when there's these big sunspots that can produce storms, we watch them rotate around, and at one point they do face our planet. And once they face our planet and they produce a storm that comes off of these sunspots, that's when we get hit by it. We're in the way of these oncoming charged particle clouds. And that's what we're seeing. Now, you guys are probably remember I was talking about this giant sunspot group now that produced on May 10th that big storm. That wasn't this one. That is another sunspot. This is a new one that is currently producing flares already. And some ham radio operators in the Indian Ocean region already experienced a blackout within the last 24 hours. So this bodes well in terms of potentials for auroras as this sunspot group turns towards us. We'll be going, and you see in this direction that I'm showing over the next few days, it will line up like like straight in our bullseye towards the Earth. So if it continues producing X-ray flares, producing charged particle clouds, this group of that we're seeing here of sunspots all clustered together in one, what we call a complex, this group, the bigger that gets, the more intense the storms that it can produce, and it's heading, it's turning towards Earth. So if it does happen to coincide with, as it turns towards Earth, that it produces X flares, produces clouds, we could get some auroral action, which would be awesome. So some more displays potentially from this one. But guess what? That's not all, guys. The sunspot group that caused the May 10th solar storm, all those beautiful auroras on May 10th, they were caused by another complex group. And if you followed me, we took actual live, I showed you live images from day to day, how it was turning away on the opposite side of the sun, right? So we were talking about here, the opposite side of the sun, it went away on this side over here on the right-hand side. It disappeared 2 weeks ago. And it takes, like I said, 28 days for one rotation, right, of the sun on its axis. So about 2 weeks later, we should be seeing that sunspot return if it still exists, as long as it didn't dissipate. And guess what? So that should be coming up along here on this side, the left-hand side, in any time now in the next few days. And guess what? There is already indication that it did survive, because, and in a big way, because already that sunspot group, it's called AR3664. See that right there? That's what caused the May 10th superstorm. And it's already, they're announcing that it's impending return with already an X 2.8 class solar flare. Now, what does that mean? It's kind of like the Richter scale of intensity, just like we have for earthquakes, or you have the scale, category 1 to 5 storms for hurricanes. This is the strongest category of X-ray flares. And already, look at this little video here. Let me see if I can zoom in there. You can see it right there. It's so the sunspot group can't be seen yet. It hasn't rotated quite uh, to face us, our side of the sun, yet. In the next few days, it will. But we can already see along the limb of the sun this huge burst of X-ray radiation, an X-ray flare, a very powerful flare coming off of presumably what we are expecting is the same sunspot group that caused the May 10th superstorm that created the beautiful light show. So there's no guarantee that we'll get more auroras, but the fact that this sunspot group did survive it's that 2 weeks of rotation onto the other side, and it's coming around again. We're going to have count it, two sunspot groups, large ones, on the same side, the Earth-facing side of the sun, in the next week or two, which could result in more solar storms, more auroras, perhaps. So I would say let's stay tuned. I'm going to watch this very intently. So stay tuned with me. Just keep your eye on my timeline on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And I'm going to post, I'll be watching these two sunspot groups, two of them that are going to be really interesting to see. So all of this is information is on spaceweather.com. I'm trying to interpret this for you, make it easy to understand. There's a lot of lingo here that are used, insider lingo, but really what it means is that there's chances over the next 2 weeks possibly of more northern lights. It could be. So it's definitely worth watching. Super stuff, guys. So glad to see all the comments. I'm watching here. Whittle is on YouTube watching. Whittle, thank you so much for joining. Whittle Wanderer watching from North Carolina mountains. Thanks for your sharing your knowledge. Teresa is subscribed to my newsletter. So fantastic. My link for my newsletter is there. And by the way, the next edition, the June edition, will be coming out in the next few days this week. So stay tuned. You want to subscribe because there's special goodies in the newsletter that I don't do during live streams and I don't cover on my night. It's strictly for subscribers. So check that out. It's free. You can sign up. CMK from Nova Scotia. We had a wonderful light show here last time. Let's hope that comes about again. CMK on YouTube. And Carol is on Facebook. Welcome, Carol, from Southwestern Ontario joining us. I hope you don't have too much stormy conditions. There's a lot of storms here in the Montreal area. Today, it's dark and dreary. Nancy is from Olympia, Washington, watching on Facebook. So glad to see you. Teresa is asking, do you think auroras will get back down to Colorado again? That was awesome. It's very possible, Carol. I should say Teresa, excuse me, Teresa, because as I said, there's going to be not just the same sunspot group that caused it back 2 weeks ago, that intense storm. That is joined by another sunspot group. So there's two sunspot groups at the same time on the same side of the sun, and they're both rotating to face the Earth at the same time. This is fantastic. It bodes well for the possibility of very strong geomagnetic storms that cause these light shows, the northern lights. So definitely Colorado, southern states may again experience it. Now's a great time for watching northern lights. So stay tuned. I'll definitely be putting out alerts. So you do want to subscribe to my newsletter, my updates, also watch my timelines. I'll be talking more about that. If anything comes, you bet I'll be right there covering it. So it's great. Corin from London, UK, welcome. Good evening to you. Irma is watching from Arizona, 103 degrees Fahrenheit. Woo! Yeah, that's sweltering. Stay cool, Irma. Definitely. And Aaron, Spencer Clark, this makes me super excited and hopeful. Yes, me too. Me too. I have crossed my fingers and toes about this Northern Lights possibility. Okay, so let's jump into the night sky, guys. Let's see what is in store for us this week. Just a few things that I'm going to quickly cover. First off, what's really neat is that the moon is very late. We had the full moon. Did you guys see the flower moon, the flower full moon? Absolutely beautiful. The The full moon of May was on the 23rd, so just a few days ago, and now we're what we're calling a waning gibbous moon. So waning means the amount of the disk of the moon is becoming less and less illuminated by the sky from our vantage point here on Earth. And so where is the moon now, you may ask, after seeing it so beautifully in our evening skies? It's actually an early morning object right there. There's the moon. It's in this is late tonight, Monday night into Tuesday morning. Really, it's in the constellation Capricornus, the sea goat, another zodiacal constellation. And if you are an early morning riser, this is set, you can see the time just below here, around 5:30. The moon is going to be visible in the skies, in the southern skies. And what will be neat is that if we watch the moon, let me see if I can get there earlier in the night. There. Um, and then we watch it the next day, Wednesday morning. What will be interesting is the moon will be still in Capricornus, but look, it'll be next to a deep sky object called Messier 30. Messier 30 is a open cluster. You can see they'll be paired. It should be visible with binoculars, the star cluster. It's like just the moon is acting as a great guidepost. As it's traveling across the sky, it stops by next to some beautiful sky objects. Many of these are beyond the solar system. So we're not even talking about moons or asteroids. We're talking about things like star clusters. And this star cluster is M30, a really beautiful one. So you would look at with your binoculars at the moon and then sort of scan lower until you see this beautiful cluster of stars. And in this case, it's not just, it's a specific type of star cluster. It's called a globular star cluster. And you can see why it's named that, because it's kind of globular, a round shaped clustering of stars. And this is a round star cluster that's 26,000 light years away. Can you imagine that, folks? You're looking back in time 26,000 years when you're watching M30, Messier 30. It was discovered by Charles Messier, French astronomer, back in August of 1764. And it was really William Herschel, a British astronomer, who in 1783 was the one who actually was able to see the individual grains of stars that make up this globular cluster. It's a bright one. It's magnitude 7.2, meaning that you can see this with binoculars. It's a really nice object for small telescopes. You know, it spans about 100 light years across from one end to the other. Can you imagine? So it takes 100 years for starlight to travel from one of these stars on the edge of one edge of the cluster to the other side of the cluster. 100 years that it takes light. That's how big these structures are. And what's really interesting about globular clusters, by the way, just like M30, there's only a few hundred that we know are scattered about in the sky. And what's really interesting is that they are scattered in the outer edge of our galaxy. So here's a nice image of the galaxy, the Milky Way, from above. And then on the side, you see it kind of looks like a frisbee. You could think of it. If you look at the frisbee from above, this is the view that you would see. In this case, this frisbee is this giant 100,000 light year across object filled with hundreds of billions of stars. That's what, and they take the form of these spiral arms. That's where all these stars are mostly located here. You can see that. The sun is right there. You can see that mark there on the screen. That's where we are in the galaxy, and kind of the outer suburbs of the Milky Way, the downtown core where all the action is, the big giant supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy is located right there. That's the center. And we're on the outer edge of one of these spiral arms. You can see right there. See this outer spiral arm and the inner side of that right there. And where is Messier 30? Look at this. It's way below. So it's 26,000 light years away from us, and you'd see it's kind of outside of the plane of the galaxy. And that's what's very interesting about globular clusters like this, is that they are sprinkled about like a halo around the Milky Way. And astronomers have studied these for decades. And what's so cool about these globular clusters is that they think that they're some of the most ancient stars that make up these round structures. They are anywhere from like 8 to 12 billion years old, these stars. They're really like fossils of the universe. Remember, the universe we think is only about 13.8 billion years old. And so at some of these stars are 12 billion. So they harken back to when the universe was still a youngster in its age. And so astronomers love to study these stars because of that fact. Globular clusters are just absolutely beautiful structures through a telescope to see. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. There. Look at that. That's a great view of it. This is what you would see through a small telescope. So it depends on what kind of instrument you're using. If you're using the naked eye, you probably won't see it. It's beyond the ability of your eye to see something so faint. But with binoculars, it'll look like a little fuzzy cotton ball. With a telescope, you will able to start resolving some of the stars outside the central core. Some of these outer stars that you're seeing I'm circling, they will look really beautiful through a small backyard telescope. So where is all this action happening? Again, this is in Capricornus, the sea goat, early morning. This is Wednesday early morning, a couple of hours before sunrise, and that is where this beautiful cluster is near the moon. And if we keep following the moon the next day, by Thursday, the moon is going to be in Aquarius, the water bearer, another zodiacal constellation. And then by Friday, let's see, Friday is very interesting. And so this is where you don't have to get up too early, maybe at sunrise, just before sunrise, a half hour before sunrise, 45 minutes before sunrise. If you do, this is what will greet you towards the southeast, eastern sky, is the moon coupled with Saturn, not a star, but a planet. Let's see if I can get this up close. There you can see Saturn and the moon huddled together. And they're going to be pretty close together, because if I go and zoom in like this is what it will appear through a typical binoculars. So this is a binocular view of Saturn and the moon. Isn't that just gorgeous? Again, this is Friday morning, May 31st. I would say this is my favorite thing of the week to see. This is my choice, my pick, is if you set your alarm, say 45 minutes before sunrise, wherever you are around the world, this is something that you'll be able to see. Now, the orientation of where Saturn and the moon will, it may look different for you. Like I said, this is set for mid-northern latitudes in the northern hemisphere. If you're in the southern hemisphere, the orientation will be very different. If you're closer to the equator than I am, then it'll be different. But the two objects will be close together, just like this. Isn't that amazing? And so I absolutely love to hear that we get to see what I call a conjunction. This is a close encounter between these two worlds. And if we continue on, we can see that on Saturday morning, this is a more of a challenge, but the moon, the crescent moon, will be near Neptune. Now, again, all this action happening in the east, southeastern skies early in the morning. This is Saturday, June 1st, is when you'll see that sight. And then a day later, by Sunday, look at that. The moon will now be close to Mars right there. There's orange, reddish Mars. And by Monday morning, next week, by June 3rd, the moon will have popped over to the other side of Mars. Now, you may have heard about this alignment, and I see Gulp 0000 on YouTube is asking, am I looking forward to the planetary alignment engine? Now, there's a lot of hoopla about this planetary alignment, but I have to tell you, it's kind of this, it's deceiving a bit, because for the average person, if you're not like super keen on observing and you're very savvy about the night sky, you probably won't notice. They're talking about seeing multiple planets. Well, you'll to the naked eye, you'll see Mars and Saturn. The moon is going to be there. If we look at it at earlier enough, you'll have um, let me see if I can do this here. There's Mars. Jupiter is going to be at around sunrise, almost visible, but it's so hard to see. I wouldn't recommend it. If you want to wait a little bit, June 5th, 6th, 7th, you'll have a better time of seeing Jupiter away from the glow of the coming sunrise. It's a very tricky thing to see. Mercury, too, almost impossible, really. And Mars and Saturn are really the only other planets that are going to be. So this all this hoopla around a planetary alignment, this isn't a really good one. It's very hard to see. More beyond Mars and Saturn being the easy one. Of course, the moon popping in with them from day to day. There you can see how the moon is popping between them. So on Friday, this is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday next week, Tuesday next week, Wednesday. The 5th of June is when you could try using the moon and Jupiter and Mercury as a great spot of just above the horizon. This is going to be a tough one, folks. So I'm not really too keen. I will post a sky chart about this so you can try. It's a great observing challenge, not an easy one. I'll tell you that. And it's all related to that observing window of how soon before sunrise can you get out, or how far away from the sunrise can you get away with this and seeing towards low eastern horizon. That's really the key here, folks. So just to mention that, I have to put that out there. So, Whittle Wander is watching from North Carolina. Who else are? So, are you looking forward to Planetary and Golf? Am I looking forward to it? Not really. It's going to be a not that great. And I know it's being posted everywhere, but it's a tough one to really notice all of these. But you can try, and if you have binoculars, definitely. And it's all about timing and using a good planetarium program like Sky Safari, like I have, will be a kind of a key. Or you can use a free one like Stellarium, just to use that planetarium program to determine when to go out to see it from your vantage point, wherever you are. Definitely, you're going to need to have a clean view towards the east. That is going to be like key to being able to see Jupiter and Mercury and the moon. And it's just going to be so hard. I don't know if, I don't want to disappoint you guys with this. That's why I'm not pushing it, because it is a hard one. I'm trying to keep it totally real. And then when you're talking about, let me show you, like Neptune. See Neptune? Neptune is so hard to see. It's magnitude 7.9. It's a binocular object. You need binoculars, and you need to know what you're looking at to spot it. It looks like a greenish blue hue near Saturn, and it's not an easy one to see. Also, there's Uranus there, but Uranus is not going to be. I'll be lost. I wouldn't even bother trying it. Honestly, it's just going to be too hard to see. You can see it. It's just so close. There's the sun, folks. And there's Mercury and Jupiter. Think about how hard this will be in that glow, how tricky it will be to discern these. It's not for the faint of heart, I'll tell you that. So I don't want to drive you guys into watching these things what's so hard, but it's out there. I'm going to post the sky charts. It's a challenge. Mars and Saturn, no problem, folks. And the moon is going to be in itself a challenge too, to see that sliver, as you can see here, as it appears on June. It's like a really thin, so it also will be a challenge to see by Wednesday. You might want to wait. Do not wait until Wednesday and go see it when it's closer to Mars. Like, this is the view on June 30th. I mean, June 3rd, I should say. Excuse me, June 3rd. Monday next week. You can see that sliver, right? That'll look very spectacular in itself. And Mars will be there. Saturn will be there as well. And be a wonderful lineup. You can try for Jupiter and Mercury, but maybe Jupiter before Mercury, I would say. So there you have it. There's some fun things. And in the evening sky, before I leave, there is no moon. So what's really, really cool, if we go back to this week, the moon, you can see it earlier now. We're on May 27th. Monday is when I'm doing this live stream. But this week, there's no moon in the evening sky, folks. This means it's great to learn your constellations. And one of the ones that I think is really fun to try to pick up, let's see if we're in an evening time, because some of us can't get up that early to see these things. So what do we have in the evening? Well, in the evening skies, we have some of the very bright stars that make up the summer triangle. Like there's Vega, right? There is Altair. Let me see if I can go out a little bit more and turn off these deep sky objects. Oh my goodness, there's just so many of them. I'm just going to turn them off there. And you can see this is the summer triangle right here. Deneb, Vega, and Altair. Now, try for this. If you're new to sky watching, this is a really good beginning to learning the sky, because you learn 3 different constellations by seeing 3 of the brightest stars, that each of these stars in the triangle represent the brightest of these individual constellations. So Deneb is the head of the Northern Cross, also known as Cygnus the Swan. You can see here. Vega is the lead star in a very small compact constellation called Lyra. So that's a really good one to know. And then you have Altair down here, closer to the horizon, in Aquila the Eagle, marks the brightest of that constellation. So if you can do these 3 stars, Deneb, Vega, and Altair, and learn that this week, it'll serve you for the rest of the season that's coming up. So all throughout the summertime that's coming up for us in the Northern Hemisphere, this is going to be key to learning a whole bunch of things. And if you look closely, if you've got a clean eye, look at this. You notice this haze that's going through here, through the summer triangle? That's the Milky Way. It's a great way to find where to look for the Milky Way. Take those binoculars out. If you're going out camping, maybe this weekend, maybe now it's Memorial Day for my friends in the United States, and you're out somewhere, maybe this is a great thing to look for, is the Milky Way, where there's less light pollution outside of the city, and the beautiful summer triangle will be a great guidepost for learning where to see the Milky Way. Try it out. It's absolutely gorgeous. And if you're stuck in the city, the summer triangle is still visible. It's something that you can see easy peasy, even under light pollution, because they're some of the brightest stars. So I highly recommend that. Now, if you're interested in finding out more about the night sky, I recommend checking out my book, The Backyard Guide to the Night Sky. I have copies available for sale that I can dedicate and sign personally. So that's out there for you. There's also the Stargazer's Atlas, a meaningful big book, a coffee table book, 6.5 pounds, and it has at its heart all 88 constellations visible from across the entire world, with sky tours that I've put in for each one, mythology, explanations of science behind everything that we're seeing. Humanity's entire connection to the night sky is included in here, so that's really cool. Also available on my website, signed dedicated copies, international shipping, and don't forget, subscribe to the newsletter. It's for free. It comes out every month. The next issue will be coming out later this week, so sign up for that. Why not? You'll get some free stuff in your inbox about what to watch, learn a little bit more about the night sky with sky charts and other cool information about astronomical discoveries and such. So some really cool things there. Whew. That's a lot of stuff, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be looking at your comments, reading through the questions. I'll try to answer them and look for sky charts this week. Hey, thanks for joining me. Give me those thumbs up and subscriptions to my channel. It means a lot. It allows me to bring these videos to you every week. I hope you find value in them. And if you do, then I'd love to see your support. Join our community. It's a safe, open, global community of stargazers like you and me. And I'd love to be your guide. So thanks so much for joining me. I hope to see you soon. Until the next video, take care and clear skies. Bye-bye.